Nice to have so many people that are here live, and everybody that's watching on the video is welcome into this as well. We're now going to talk to the decision makers, coaches. We've had discussions with analysts who say that I report to the GM or the assistant GM or the head coach or the assistant coach. I don't make any decisions. I just look at the data. I don't make any. It's their job. I give it to them and they do it. And now we've got the decision makers. Swedes, 4 Swedes that are here, representing different parts of Swedish hockey. Tomas Montén, we'll go down through. Patrik, Jeff Jakobs, Albelin. Tomas, you're the head coach of H371. Give us a little background, people who don't know you.
Yeah, I just started, so haven't made a big impression.
But you've done other things than H371.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just joined the team and the organization in May. Last 6 years, I've been coaching the under 20s, the Swedish World Junior teams, and working last 6 years for the Swedish Federation, both with the men's team, but mostly with the under 20s.
And before that, you're an assistant and head coach for different teams as well.
Yeah, I've been around the SHL for a couple of teams. So,
Patrik.
Yeah, I'm the assistant GM of the Växjö Lakers of the Swedish Hockey League. Been there for 9-10 years now. Came in as a scout/analyst, and I'm still the boss of the scouting department, which is me, and the analytics department, which is also me. So I work with the GM and the coaching staff in Växjö.
Jeff Jakobs.
Yes, I'm the assistant coach for Linköping. Before that, I was in Oskarshamn 2.5 years, and before that, I've been Hockeyallsvenskan in Norway as an assistant coach. So I've been doing this for 8 years, I think.
Adam?
Yeah, I'm the video coach for the Swedish national team for the women's. Also work as an account support manager for SportLogic part-time, and also did some work for Djurgården, doing pre-scouts in a limited capacity.
If we stay with you, then your relationship to data, analytics, are you part of the new generation or are you part of the old generation? Where do you fit in?
I think I'm something of an in-between, but basically I got my roots as a regular video coach, doing just the basic stuff. So kind of had to find my way how to work with analytics by myself and kind of teach myself how to get new information and new data.
Jeff, are you part of the new generation or are you part of the older generation?
I think I'm somewhere in between, but from the start, I'm more of a video guy than a stat guy. But I think during the last couple of years, I've been understanding that it will be for my benefits to start learning a little bit and start using it. So I think I'm somewhere in between there.
Patrik, you started as an analyst, you said, and scout, and did that are you part of the new generation, the new generations of GMs, and we're going to run the...
I was part of the new generation 10 years ago, maybe.
And now you're part of...
the first teams to work with this in the Swedish league, at least. So always had a big interest for that kind of stuff and followed the evolution of the stats integration into hockey for the last 10 years now, and tried to be as good as can be at translating that into hockey language or actionable decision informing knowledge. So
would you consider yourself a data guy as well?
I'm not really a data guy because I don't have the skills to really do anything with the APIs or the really difficult stuff. So I outsource that, but I think I'm pretty good at working with the data to draw conclusions that are helpful for our recruitment, for the coaching staff, or in the pre-scout and the post-game evaluation. So I'm kind of a data guy, but not really.
Okay. Tomas, even though you seem to be fairly young, you started early, you've got a lot of jobs. Are you part of the new generation or the old generation?
Definitely the old.
Okay.
No, yeah, we haven't worked with it a lot. I mean, I've worked with the platforms, but most for scouting, most for like pre-game scouting and using the the video systems that are there to just enhance that work and take the workload off a bit, but not using the data a lot.
Do you trust the data?
I trust the data when someone shows it to me and then can convert it to video. And if I see it in a video clip, then I trust the data.
Okay. Will you let your analysts talk to your players?
If I had an analyst, I could imagine that for sure. So no, and I know a lot of teams have now. Unfortunately, Hove doesn't have one now. So we have a goalie coach / a video coach, and I think for us and I think for a lot of organizations, I think that's maybe the next step. Working with the national team the last couple of years, all the teams that I worked on in the national team, they always carry one goalie coach and one video coach, and the video coach used analytics as well. So I know that you had some goalie coaches yesterday who were here and talked, and I think I think goalie coaches should be goalie coaches, and then I think a video coach should work with video and analysis.
What does that mean? Do you think that goalie coaches try to be defenseman coaches and they try to be forward coaches and they try to be head coaches?
No, I just think that they should do their thing, and I think they should do what they're best at. And I think if you have a goalie coach and he's a better video coach, maybe you find a new goalie coach. But I just feel like that if we want to use this and be good at it, I think we got to have the manpower to do it.
Patrik, you came up with this and you started up with analytics and how does Växjö Lakers choose to spread the information? Is it through you or is it through someone else? Do you talk to the players? Do you talk to your head coach, Jürgen? Do you talk to the GM?
Yeah, I don't talk to the players at all. So we think that it's the most efficient way to kind of get a message across is to for me to translate the data into what I think it means and what kind of adjustments I can see that we're going to do, or this player is doing this, or there's a lot of that, whatever it may be. And then I report to the coaches, and then they can sit with the player and show a video, or I send them video that they pick out. And it's easier if the message comes from the coaches. At least that's the way we've been working with it. And with recruitment, it's more of we integrate this into the decision-making process, but I'm also the scout as well as the data guy. So I don't fight with myself, but I kind of mix everything together into a report that I send over to the GM, and then we talk about it, or why is this way, or why is it that way, and why do you think this? And we have good discussions about it. But
is it a compliment to you to say, when I watch Växjö Lakers, I don't know if I love them or I hate them, because you're really boring to watch a lot of times because you're so sound in your systems and you do everything the right way and everybody's doing it the exact same way and you win and you've won again? Do you take that as a compliment, or do you think that I'm giving you guys a hard time?
No, I don't know. I only heard that we won, so.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Jeff, coaches, we've had other analysts up here. I talk to head coaches, we talk to the GM, we don't talk to the players at all. Patrik kind of says the same thing. How do you do? Do you talk analytics with your players? Do you work with them in that way? Do you show them through the videos? Do you talk numbers with them? How do you work with it?
Yeah, so for me, like that's the numbers is one tool to analyze. Like my job is to analyze, made a plan and then execute the plan. And for me, it's like you can analyze by having the feelings from the game, and you can have the video, and then you have the numbers. So from that, I do analyze our team and our structure and our player individual, and then sometimes I show them numbers, but a lot of the times I just show them the video. But a lot of those clips is building from some of the numbers I got them too. So that's like build it with numbers, but don't show them that much numbers, I would say.
Adam, how'd you get into the business? You have you have a last name that many people might recognize?
Yeah, well, presenting the numbers, we do it if we feel a need for it, and we feel that the numbers can impact parts of our game. But it's not something that we do heavily. But we do work a lot of with video, very heavily.
And how'd you get started with this?
Well, I went to University of Tampa and studied sport management, and there they had opportunity to do an internship at the Tampa Bay Lightning. And so I got that and got into basically the statistics side, and had the ability to join them for two years after that. So worked under Mike Peterson there in Tampa.
The reason why I ask, we have students that are here, there are competitions, there are people that want to, hey, how do I get in this business? And John says to me, we're way behind. And in Sweden, we got to do more. We got to do more. And I disagree. I think that Sweden is on the cutting edge, at least in Europe, maybe not compared to North America. And what this conference, but the people that we see, the competitions. Jeff, how are you going to tell it? I'm at the university. I'm not a hockey player good enough to play in the SHL, but I love data and I want to get in the business. What the heck should I do? How do I call you guys? Do I call Klaus Östman? How do I get in the business? I want to be in the business. I'm a student. I'm 20 years old. I'll move anywhere you want me to go.
Yeah.
What do I need to be good at?
Yeah, I think that's a good start, like to reach out, even if there's a mail or a phone call. And then I would say that it's a good start to try to help the team, like do some research, do some project and send to the team. Like if some guy like send me a project they have done about my PK or stuff like that, I should read it and start wondering if that guy maybe could help me and something like that. But I think the first start is to reach out and then maybe have a project to show the guys that you reach out to.
Would you read it if I was a 21-year-old student at the University of Linköping and I analyzed your power play and I said to you, Jeff, you guys need some help. Here you go. Would you read it?
Yeah, I think I would read it. Yeah.
Patrick, I want to get in the business. Should I call you? What should I do?
Yeah, don't call me, but send an email. No, like that's how I got into the business. I was interested and I had a failed junior hockey career, and how can I get into the business? I want to scout. I can do this, or I can do that. Like just reached out to anyone I could get the email of, and luckily Växjö was interested in talking about like scouting and analytics, and it took off from there. But don't expect too much pay for the first few years, but just to get a foot in the business.
Mm-hmm. Tomas, somebody called you and said, hey, H371 situation is this, and this. You need this player, not that player, but this player. Would you read it?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Would you admit it?
Yeah.
That I just got a report from a university student that says get rid of these three guys, and I
always want to learn. So I mean, if you can learn me, teach me something new, then it's for sure, definitely. But then again, I think it's just to get into the SHL or to get into the top teams in Sweden. I think you need to do more. I think you got to be able to do more and just analyze data. I think you need to be able to connect it with video, so you can make bigger things. You can make presentations of everything. So I think just for again, back to the goalie coaches. I think the goalie coaches, they're so high valuable for us because they can do both. And I think that's the strength they have, that they work with the video and they work with the goalies.
Now, goalie coaches, when we heard the panel debate yesterday with looking at Ullmark and all the different situations, which is almost easy to analyze in a sense. It's data that's very similar because they stand still or in a very, very limited area. Jeff, when you look at your players, how do you convey the bigger ice surface and the places to be? Is there a way to do that in a way that is easy to understand? I don't know if I made my questions really clear, but it's difficult because the ice is 60 by 30, where a goalie stands there and he just kind of does the same thing side to side, very limited area. Talking to another player, the ice is so much bigger. There's so many different options. There's so many different choices. Is that easy for you to explain to a player?
No, that's pretty tough. But I think when you analyze one player and you're going through his shift or you're going through some of his games and watching video and you put that together with some of the numbers, then you get a better picture of it. But I think the most important thing is, especially as a coach, is to find some numbers that you're always looking at. So you don't start by looking at like 15 to 20 numbers. So how I work, I almost have like 6 to 10 numbers that I watch on every demon I got.
Can you share some of the ones you look at most?
Yeah, some of them I can. I don't want to give you everything.
Is it a secret?
No, some of them are secret though, but it's the easy ones. Like it's not that you try to get up on some hard things. It's just a shot against in the slot when you're on the ice and denials in neutral zone and stuff like that. So it's more of the big numbers that I watched and compare with the video and the feelings I got.
Patrik, you guys have been successful. You've obviously done a great job. What numbers do you look at?
Yeah, well, we look at everything that we think leads to goals for and limits goals against.
And how many different parameters is that? Is it 10 parameters, 100 parameters?
No, it's probably 100 parameters, some more important than the others. And what's important to us is, okay, what do we want out of this? We want to know what leads to goals for and goals against. Okay, what's the next part of that? That's maybe scoring chances or XG, and then it's shots, and finding out what leads to that and looking more at that. Like a lot of is tracking back and seeing this guy is putting up good numbers. Why is that? Can we have him do more of the little things that he does to show us good numbers? Or can we use his skills and translate that to another player? Can you do more of this because we see that leads to a better XG percentage or something like that? So we'll always try to break it down and find things like not just saying this player is good, this player is bad, or this game was good, this game was bad, but actually finding out why is that and what can we do to change it.
If we stay there a little bit, you've been on the team that's been the most successful the last couple of years in Sweden. You've had 2 coaches, Sam Hallam and now Jürgen Jönsson. What's the difference between them? Do they both see the analytics side the same way, or are they very different and a different communication filter that you need to have?
No, they're pretty similar in their approach. Like as long as you can make a good argument for your approach or what you think your findings are, and they will always listen. And sometimes his experience go obviously way above anyone else in the room. So he can. Are you
talking about Jürgen now or Sam?
Yeah, Jürgen for sure.
Yeah,
Sam for me as well. But yeah. It's very similar, and a lot of the same people are there. So we're fortunate to have a lot of the same people. And Jürgen has been with us before, so he knows kind of how we work.
Does he ever say, "Screw the numbers, I know hockey"?
Not like that, but of course, like even myself can sometimes question why are things looking like they are, or like we felt this was a really good game, and the numbers show that was a one-sided affair for the other team or something like that. And then you kind of have to dig deeper and see, is there a reason for this, or are we just wrong? And most of the times we're just wrong.
Adam, what are your favorite parameters? What do you like to look at the most? What do you like to show players? Obviously, you've got to filter it down so they understand.
Yeah, exactly. So we like to look at a lot of the, I guess you would say, basic ones that were mentioned here, like XG or metrics in the slot for and against, but also too, say if the coaches want improvement on the forecheck, we want to get the puck back and get shots on net quickly. Maybe create something new, a dump in recovery with shots on net within 6 seconds. So working a lot with time intervals, try to get that quickness.
You work with the women's team.
Yes.
Do the girls, are they acceptable, open to it? Do they want to digest the information, or it's something that, whoa, new stuff for me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, of course they do, but we show it in a limited capacity that we think will work and that they can maintain over periods of time. So
now the women's team generally has a lower age average than the men's national team. Do you think that plays a difference? Does that make it easier or harder to have a discussion with women as opposed to men?
Yeah, I would say it varies. Specifically when we get the young ones that are like 16, 17, the TikTok generation, the time span which they can focus maybe isn't the longest.
So it's more difficult to talk to a younger person that may even be more or open to information.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Tomas, with all of this and we talk about these parameters, do you have your own, like, I want 5 things, I want to report on this every game and I want to know about this, or do you talk about it more long term and how are our trends going?
No, for us and then for our games, we do it ourselves.
Now, when you say the national team now, or
no, how we're gonna do it. Yeah.
Okay.
But then it's gonna be our video coach that makes that on ourselves. And then again, we use the platforms and we use the numbers in scouting our opponents and trying to break down what they're good at and where do they have any flaws? Do they have anything that we want to try to use to our advantage, or do they have something special that we really need to pay attention and maybe even change our strategy a little bit more for that upcoming game? Then we use the numbers and we use the platforms, but to break down our play, we're going to use our own, and we're going to use our own video and build from there.
I assume that this is both to Patrik and to Jeff. I assume that you guys look at your opponents in some way or another. Are you sitting there, both of you right now, with, I don't want to say that because Jeff might learn a little bit more about Växjö Lakers and be a better coach against me. Or Jeff, you might think, Patrik's sitting here, I don't want to give him that tip. Therefore, are we that advanced? Or is it still a simple process? Hopefully understand me right. It's the data's abundant. There's tons of data, but at some point you've got to interpret it. You won the championship. You guys are the best. Do you have secrets, or can you open it up for this group and anybody watching?
Yeah, we have secrets for sure. And I think in broad terms, I can talk to all the other teams, but then if we think we're doing something that nobody else is doing, or we're at the forefront of like new evolution or finding another way, another direction of looking at things, then I'm not going to give that to Frölunda or Rögle or anyone else. Like, I don't want to help them win more games because.
So you guys are going to win more championships, but you're not going to develop the business.
Right.
John, that was an answer to one of our questions. We talked about how we're going to get the business to grow. Jeff, how do you feel? Do you feel the same way? Would you be able to share with Frölunda and with Färjestad and with Växjö your ideas, or no thanks, I've got my ideas and I want to keep them to myself?
No, I think a little bit like Patrik said, like some of the things that you're working with, can you show? And that's not a secret, but some of the things, like if I think that when I analyze like an opponent or my team or some of the players, there's some numbers that I think not that much of the other teams are looking at. I don't want to show that because it's still like a competition, and I'm getting paid to try to win as much games as possible with Linköping, and that's how it is in this business too.
And the idea of thinking that if I share my ideas with someone that's in a similar position, I might learn a lot from him or her in that discussion, even though I open things up.
Yeah, but that's more like a discussion one-on-one, I think, when you can dig a little bit deeper into the small details and you can give and take a little bit more information. But still, like, I understand the winning in showing more and talking more about it, but I think it's a tough situation there. It's like something like 50-50 what I want to show and 50% what I don't want to show, and just hide and try to be as good as possible with my things.
Adam, you're on the outside, you're on the national team. And when you hear this discussion, what do you think? Do you think that, that sounds right? You know, that's normal.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very natural to think that way. In a sense, I kind of think the same way when I'm in a tournament. So it's not like I'm talking to Finland's video coach and trying to exchange ideas with him on a daily basis.
Now,
But
if I think of it, I understand that in the middle of a playoff or in the middle of a tournament, you're doing your thing. But today, what's 9th of June? Season hasn't started. Our teams haven't been set. We don't know who our players are. Let's talk how we're going to create better analytics or how we're going to interpret better analytics situation or data. And wait a minute, we've got the solution or we know it better. It's an interesting thing to think about how we're going to develop the system. I talked with Eric 2 days ago and hey, do you guys talk to you? They both said about the same thing. Not really. You know, we can talk about the basic stuff, but we're not willing to dive into what we think is our thing. You're a head coach. You want to keep everything secret?
I don't have any secrets. It's hockey, you know, it's hockey.
Well, that's but we're now in a world that it's not hockey anymore. Now it's data. And it's interpretation of data.
Yeah, but in the end, it's going to come down to the actions that our players do on the ice. And I mean, I think everyone who works with it can break down how Växjö plays. The problem for us is that their players are so good doing their actions. We know what they want to do, but they're better at doing it than we are destroying it. And I think that's the bottom line of it. And just and again, I feel for sure, I think you can give some away to get something back. Otherwise, I think you'll get stuck. But I don't know how much how much you can. I don't know how much is different. You know, I think everyone is doing pretty much the same. But then again, some teams choose to focus on this thing a lot, and some teams doesn't want to focus on it at all, and they just keep focusing on themselves and their sorry.
Patrik, Dave Radke, I probably will not say this exactly right, but he talked about multilateral decisions with many different people. I mean, we're talking hockey. It's a complex sport. There are people moving in all different directions, and there are a lot of things that you can't control at all. How do you use that to communicate with your players? I mean, do you try to explain that to them, or do you just say, coach makes the decisions, follow the coach? I mean, how much do you involve your players? You got extremely successful players, a coach that's done it, but also other players that and they're smart players. How much do you discuss with them the way you guys do things and take it back to the numbers, or no, they stay away from the numbers?
I would say if you're a player in Växjö, I don't think you can tell the difference from playing in HV or Linköping or anywhere else. Like when it comes down to it in the practice sessions or in the game. So it's more about what goes on in the background and the knowledge and the conclusions that we draw. And then the coaches find a way to communicate that in a way that they can't really tell the difference if they just saw it on a video or they just felt it in the game, and then they draw it up on the whiteboard or they talk to the player and they can't tell the difference. So I wouldn't say the players are feeling any different when they play for us than anywhere else.
Jeff, you have two of your colleagues here, head coach Klaus Östman and assistant coach Pat Albrandt. How much do you three discuss this and try to figure out if it's worth talking about with the players or not? Is this something that the data, is that a discussion that happens on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
Yeah, I think it's almost on a daily basis. It's the same with the video. Like a lot of us coaches works a lot with the video, and you always ask yourself, how much do I gonna show the team? How much am I going to show the individual player? And it's the same thing with the numbers. Like, am I going to show some of these numbers or not? So I think it's an ongoing talk during the season.
You're the one that works with the numbers the most in that group. Do you have to fight for your ideas and say the numbers are right, and your colleagues say no, they're not, or do they? Okay, I accept that.
I don't think I work with the numbers the most. I think we are four guys that like the numbers, and we are our own analysts.
Yeah. Forget Mickey Verno, obviously.
Yeah.
I take who does a lot of the work.
Yeah,
so
we talk a lot about it because I think all four of us guys understand that it's an important thing. So it's not that I have to fight for the numbers. So I think it's an ongoing discussion all the time with all four of us, and we have some different inputs on some things and Klaus has been working a lot with this, and he has his opinion on what he thinks is important, and I have mine, and Albelin is not new into this, and he's going to get in with fresh eyes into it, and Mick is like from his side or from the goalie side. So I think we got 4 perspective on the numbers, and that's leading into a good discussion almost every time, I think.
Autumn, you work with players at a tournament, and then they go back to their teams, and they come to a tournament, and they go back to their teams, then you go to a tournament. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, does it help you to communicate with them? Hey, remember the last time we talked about this, and hey, don't forget about that. Or do you have to start over every time you meet?
Well, it depends how many players we changed out on the roster, but it's certainly a challenge. Because looking from tournament to tournament, the team might be built totally differently, and you might have to have different discussions with players of different metrics. But yeah, I would say it's pretty challenging, actually.
Tomas, how much do you use this to build your roster? We had 2 NHL people that here. So Dave works with Chicago. Josh works with Boston, and both of them said when they talked, they said, we're part of roster construction. In other words, they build their roster. I didn't really think of it that way, but obviously that's the way they do. How much are you going to let this be in your roster construction? Do you look at it right now when you're out recruiting players?
Not much. Again, I just came in, and I like big parts of the team was already set, but knowing the GM, I would say it's not a lot of numbers on that. I think it's more, it comes down more to the like, what kind of player do we need? What's the financial structure of it? And what's the character? What do other people say about him? What does player who played with him and coaches who coached him, and trying to build that map most. I think over time, for sure. I mean, I used it when I was in the national team. We used it for scouting players for the World Juniors. So we had 6 defensive forwards to choose for the last 3 spots. Then the video coach I had, the analyst, he brought up their numbers, and we looked at it, and we said, okay, if we want a defensive forward, what areas of the game is going to be most important for us? And we have these 6 guys. Okay, these 2 have better numbers than the other 4. Is that something that could be it's not the last factor, but is it something we should weigh in?
Roster construction, Patrik, you a part of that? Is that something that you use the data to recruit players and then fill out the last few spots that you have?
Yeah, for sure. We use data in all our processes, and when it comes to recruiting and finding players with qualities that we think we're missing or that we're trying to replace, or undervalued players, and what should we pay for this player? What's the optimal way to build a roster with the budget that we have, and what's the most efficient way to build a roster? So
who does those negotiations? Is it you, or then your GM that makes those decisions and negotiates?
Yeah, the GM negotiates.
Does he ever use the numbers and say, well, your numbers are bad, so that's why we're only going to pay you this amount of money?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
So he'll be straightforward with the player or with the agent that these numbers say this, therefore I'm going to give you this amount.
Yeah, like the agent can say, well, we're going to get a little bit of a raise because he scored 2 more points than last year, but then it's my job maybe to show the numbers why he's aging from 34 to 35, and why we shouldn't pay him as much. So for sure, that's part of it.
There are a lot of stories about arbitration with people coming out of there crying after meeting with some of the old coaches many years ago in that situation. Jeff, do you guys use the data for that way as well when you're looking at the different players and try to analyze what they're going to give your team?
Yeah, a little bit. So like we have the GM, and he do a little bit of that work and watch some of the numbers. And then when we get the player, if we have like 4 Ds, maybe I get 4 Ds that I want to check up and look for the next season. That's like some natural part to watch some of the numbers too. So I bring that in when I evaluate and scouting players, but I don't really know how much the GM is doing, but I know that he's doing a little bit of it. Then how much, I don't know.
Tomas, how does this make you feel as a head coach? Do you like this? I mean, roster construction that's being done with with data. You talked about Kent Norberg, one of the most successful general managers in Sweden, a little bit older, so old generation.
Yeah.
What is this? How you feel when you hear this?
No, I think I think it's good. I think it comes down to everyone what you feel confident doing, and again, how you want to conduct your work. And I say again, all teams do it differently. I think just most important for us is that, okay, we have a plan, and this is how we want to execute it, and this is how we want to move forward. And I think it comes down to every person that works in this business to develop their own side of it and decide, okay, I need this and this, and I'm going to listen to this and this.
Autumn, do you work with raw data or do you work with packaged data?
I work with package data.
Jeff, packaged data, raw data?
Package.
Patrick?
We work with a little bit of both, but mostly package.
Due to the fact that you don't have more people and it's something that you have to be quick about and have to use it?
No, it's more about like the know-how really, and some things that we think are sufficient with the package data that we don't need to redo ourselves.
We heard yesterday with Josh talking about it, and they've got in the Boston Bruins, he talked about 5-6 people that he works with, and they want just the raw data. Do you think you can be better, or they can be better with the raw data, or is it just because then they somehow get to understand it better? Any thoughts?
Like, you can find out a lot more things when you're working with the raw data, and you can build it in a way so it's tailor-made for what you're trying to find out, and you can use every piece of information that is gathered in a way that a package data isn't doing. It's still like greatly packaged, but you can do a lot more things, and we do some of that as well. But yeah, when you have however many data engineers, then you can do a lot more.
Certainly.
Can I ask a question to this?
Sure.
So where do you see the lag? Is the lag on the data engineering? Is the lag on the GMs and directors to invest the money for more people? Or some of you cooperate maybe with universities to create this data sets? Like, where's the lag of integrating these people? So is the lag on the engineering side that they don't know hockey and they don't know how to transform and translate it?
Yeah, I would say like most of it is lack of resources and lack of manpower. So I think for many of us, it's a tough sell when you can't tangibly point at something like this is going to improve us in the game tomorrow, or this is going to help us recruit better tomorrow. And like, if you have unlimited resources, you can have lots of guys working with the data and researching things and finding new ways and breaking down new doors. And that's just a question of resources, I think.
Would you be willing to work with a university or students at a university, or I don't have the time, doesn't work out? Guys, thanks for all your help, but no thanks. Do you have the time to sit with the university and try to develop, or you got too much?
Yeah, for sure. If you can help us and someone is willing to do it, then for sure.
So Tim, there's a good start for the discussion, and help the teams get better, and then get your way in. Don't expect a lot of money the first couple of years, but hey, you're in the professional athletic business. Isn't that great? Cautious trust. When we talk about data validity, is what we're looking at. Is it true? And yesterday, the analysts that were with us, one of them, I think it was Josh, or if it was Dave, that talked about cautious trust. In other words, they trust it, but they don't trust it to 100% because there are glitches, there are things that can happen. And that's something that creates them feeling we need to just always have a distance to the whole situation. Tomas, you're the head coach, you're responsible for HV71. Do you swallow all this with the data, or to some point you say, you know what, I'm a hockey guy, I see what I see, I'm not going to look at the numbers, this is the way we're going to go?
In the end, we end up in that area. I mean, in the end, you don't have the time to spend. You
have to make the decision.
Yeah, for sure. And again, what I said from the beginning, I don't know if I made it clear, but again, I think it's a good system. I just feel that you got to find a good way to work with it. And again, if I had a video coach slash someone who could analyze it, maybe we would use it more. But now we don't have that resource, and then I feel we're not going to spend too much time on it when we can't secure it as good as we want.
Adam, when players go home from a game, when I played, we got a CD at the end of my career. We thought that was great. We could take a CD home and watch a few of our shifts. A couple of years ago, you could send them. Now you log on to a page and an application, and you get all your shifts and everything else that you do. When are we going to be seeing our numbers, our data numbers in those applications? Because the businesses we talked about, they want to build new products as a tech company. They want to help hockey, but it's still a product that they want to sell, obviously. And when are our kids or our young people, young players come home with all of their data and a whole list of that? You see that in 2 years, 5 years, 7 years? How fast is this going to go?
Oh, I think relatively soon. I think you can do, I don't know really. I think it would be a good thing to have it combined. So you get your email with your shift data, and then also maybe have some sort of KPIs for the player side. So you can basically get a quick look at how you did. And I think that's enough. They don't need to go too deep into the numbers, I think.
Jeff, what are your thoughts about that?
I think if they get the numbers, we should have like a plan how we, first of all, sell it to the guys that should be good for them to develop and evaluate their own games. But I think the most important thing is that we sit down with the players and try to like learn them what the numbers are. And because if you give the players too much numbers, they can watch the wrong numbers, or they put like their eyes on the right things or the wrong things. So I think we have to guide their eyes to the right numbers. I think that's the most important things, because if it's too much numbers for the player, I don't think that helps them.
Now, let me take that a step again. When the CDs came out, I remember hearing my coach say to another coach, they don't need to see that. They don't know what the hell they're looking at anyways. And if you ask a young player today through a video and they say to a coach, hey, give me feedback. Often the best coach says, tell me what you see, and then I'll respond to that, as opposed to a coach telling you, here you're standing to the right, or you're standing to the left. Or my question being, and Patrik, you can add on to it, isn't that going to fix itself, because the data and the technology is going to expand and improve, and we're going to be pushing it down to our 20-year-olds, our 18-year-olds, our 16-year-olds. Do you see this as something being in the next, while you're still coaching or part of a team, that they're going to have their data at home?
I mean, it's certainly possible that it's going to trend in that direction, but I think it's important to have a clear idea of why you're doing something. I don't think it's going to help any of our players if they're benched in the third period to get an email, oh, you played 7 minutes and you have 0, 0, 0 of everything. That's not going to help anyone, and we're not going to get a very confident player back the next morning. So,
but we have it now in the shifts. We send home the shifts. Everyone has their shifts. They know exactly how many minutes they played. When I played, I had no idea how many minutes I played. It was never even calculated. But now you go on. I had 6 minutes yesterday. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, I would rather they not know how much they played at all, but it's impossible.
But I think it's just, I mean, I think numbers are good. Just make sure that it's the right numbers. Like.
But that's going to be your job.
Yeah, but again, like you once showed, I mean, before we had these platforms, I mean, we always kept like scoring chances for and against. And if you post that on a paper and you tell your second D pair that, yeah, you were on the ice for 2 scoring chances on the good side and 8 against, they're coming back and they want to see those 8 chances against, and they want to see if it's really them, and if they want to see how it looked. And I think that's the important part. If you have the numbers, if you're going to give them the numbers, then you got to make sure that it's accurate from your style of play, or from our system, or how we want to defend. If we want to play, we don't care about, just an example. So we don't care about defensive zone time. We only care about how many inner slot shots against. So, I mean, and again, I think you got to build those stats from your style of play.
Are you as a head coach going to have time to explain all this?
No.
You're gonna have to build your organization,
Yeah.
more people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But again, it's like video. I mean, we can show 200 hours of video. I mean, as a coach, that's the most simple part of the job. But in the end of the day, it's going to come down to, okay, are they going to be better with these 200 hours, or am I going to make them worse? And I mean, we make decisions every day from video, so we don't show everything that we feel like, fuck, we have to show him this. He sucks. Yeah, but maybe we can't, because he's not going to be able to work with it, and he's not going to be better tomorrow. So, and I think that's going to be the same thing with the numbers.
So I agree there. I think the most important thing as coaches and GMs and whatever it is that working to the players, if it's video or if it's number, is that you have a plan. Like my plan today with this number is to get out that. If it's working individual with the players, or if it's in pre-scout, or if it's in evaluate our game, that you have to have a plan. Like that's the most important things, because if you don't have a plan and you go in, if it's the video or if it's the number, it's like, it's so much that you can't be efficient.
Patrik, do you guys have a plan? What numbers you show, what numbers you don't show, or do you believe that what Jeff is saying is something that's extremely important for even Växjö?
Yeah, for sure.
You have a plan?
Yeah, always.
Okay. Do all the players get to see all their numbers?
None of them.
None of them get to see them. Adam, what do you think about that? Is that the way to deal with these 16-year-olds that might not have the attention span, or should we wait a couple more years until they have the attention span?
No, I think that's the way to do it. I think you have to give it to them in a good amount, not too much. I think that's really important, especially when they're developing, so they don't start focusing on the wrong things. I think that's extremely important, and basically to try to get feedback from what the coaches are what message they're trying to get across. I think that's really important, so they align.
2023, let's jump forward 3 years. So 2026, what are we discussing? Are we going to be saying them, we got a plan, everybody's got a plan, oh, they've got a, or are we going to be talking about something else? Do you think that we're going to be leapfrogging where all of that talking about how to use the numbers, somebody else is going to do, somebody that wants to make a product at their stathletes or sports contract or Speedio or whatever their names are? Do you think that they will be doing the coach's job and telling players how to read the stats? Or do you think that it will still be up to the coaches?
No, I still think it'll be up to the coaches. I do.
Jeff, do you believe in the advancement of technology is going to go so fast that it's going to be given to these kids and your players, or is it going to still be up to the coaches?
I think it's still up to the coaches. And I think a lot of that is like, you have to see it from the other side too. Like, it doesn't matter. Now I talk a lot about the video, but that's my original tool that I work a lot with, but it's so important. It doesn't matter how much video I show them. It's more of like the relationship and stuff like that. And when you work with them daily, it's so much natural for me to show them the video and have a good discussion about it and make them getting better that way. So I think from that perspective, I think it's going to be up to the coaches to working with the numbers individual too.
Patrik, you're still in Växjö Lakers. I'll say that in 3 years. Are we advancing extremely quickly with this, or still up to the coaches? They're not going to get their own information from the internet, from some kind of application. Where are we in 3 years?
I don't know really, but I think we can do a better job of working together with the players to kind of explain what we're trying to achieve. And if that's by showing them a lot of numbers or explaining what we think is the pathway to get better numbers, and this is why we're going to do X, Y, and Z to get the better numbers, I think that's the approach to do it. And I'm sure we're doing a better job of it in 3 years, but I'm not sure if it's they just go to an app or a website and look at things for themselves, because 3 years is too fast to get the players that smart.
Tomas, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a challenge. in 3 years. I think it's, again, media picks it up a lot. They use it a lot. So even some guys use it, but they don't know how to use it, but they still talk about it. And I think that's going to be a challenge for teams and for coaches. I think players will get same as like video. They have, some guys have individual video coaches working with them besides the games. They have a power play coach that works with them, even though they have a forward coach and a power coach in their team. So I think this is something that's going to be bigger, and I think it's going to be a tough thing for the teams and the coaches to handle, because I think players will get numbers and data, and if it's to their advantage, then I think they're going to try to use it on us.
I worked with Linköping, we're back about 8 years. Klaus Dahlbeck was drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago Blackhawks came to Sweden, Linköping with a scout or with their skills coach, and he's teaching Klaus how to play defense when the head coach is standing next to him saying, that's not the way I want him to play defense. And Klaus didn't know if he's going to listen to the NHL team that's talking to him, or if he's talking to his coach right now. There was the placement of their stick, and it was something so the NHL teams are going to be a part of this for your best players. No question about it. In the future, they're going to be having those stats, and they'll want to see those stats because that's what they've drafted their player for, and expect that out of them.
And again, future, we always try to develop. We always try to be better. In the SHL, we play 52 games in a season, and that's what we bring all the numbers from and all the data. We practice between 150 and 180 times. So is there in 3 years, is there a possibility to look at our practices and get numbers on our practices? Do we practice as we want to play? It's not an issue for me to solve, but
why not? You're going to still be here in 3 years.
There's some smart people in the room, so maybe.
Any questions? Any thoughts?
Mike, you asked the question several times to the analyst panels. What would you do if you get 50,000 euros? And almost everyone said, we want some more people. Here on the panel, we hear that, if I had this kind of people, we would do more and more. So what would it take for the teams actually to invest in this kind of role? Because honestly, if you take in a 20, 25-year-old person who just got a master's degree, the salary is going to be peanuts compared to the player salary. So what would it need for the teams to go that way?
Patrik, I guess you're the one of probably the highest up in a decision-making policy. Tomas possibly as well, depending on if it's the coach or the GM that decides things. Why are you the only one in Växjö that's working with analytics?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's I don't really know. I guess I have to do a better job of selling the idea of what we can improve, and we can make more money or make more wins if we're paying another guy or another 3 guys to work with me. I think for Swedish teams, at least, this is still so new that just having one person to do it is enough and sufficient. But
to be honest,
in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, everyone's going to have one. And then the next step is going to be, well, now Färjestad's 4 guys, and we're falling behind here because they can do things that we can't.
Now,
So I think it's just about, it hasn't been done before. It's money that they haven't budgeted for before. So if they see other teams do it, then they will follow. And that's what happens in the last few years here. More and more teams are starting to have a paid analyst from 0 to 1 at least. So I'm sure it's going to trend in that direction in the coming years.
Tomas says they don't have one at this point, a specific analyst. So there are 5 teams.
That's a money issue for us.
Yeah.
It's a budget issue, and it's again, it's so we're looking at maybe like outsourcing it in some kind of way, like again. But I again, as I said, if I want to do it, I want to do it like good and full. And right now we don't have that. We need to sell some players first.
Yeah, no, it's always. I mean, it's always easy to look at somebody else's budget and say, why don't they spend the money on this or
we cut the rosters down and we save some money. I don't
know. It's always
there's some ideas.
It's a difficult discussion.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Again, sorry. So I think I totally agree with you on the culture creation. Like there's a culture change and it takes time. I wonder who's responsible for create the culture. Is it and maybe a question to you, is it the federation? Is it the league? Is it like who creates the community then also on each level, like not only on the video coach level, but on the GM level and on the investor level, maybe even? So who's responsible to create this culture? Or is it maybe us? Like, let's say the companies like Huddle, like we do in Belgium. So we have these conferences. Yeah. What do you say?
That's a very good question, but I think the federation could absolutely be an example setter, I think. But also too, I know these teams have maybe larger budgets to do something and actually, get that going, I would say.
What do you say, Jeff? Whose job is it to move this forward?
I think it's Växjö's fault. They only got Patrik and win every other year anyway. So. No, but I think it's like it's the whole environment, every people around it. When we start and when new people start, figure out the winning of it, and when we see that if we hire a guy, this is what we get out of it, and then it will come step by step, I think. But it's not that it's just the federation or the league or it's the GMs or the head coach. I think it's day by day, it's getting more and more important, and we'll come step by step, I think.
Patrik, you weren't asked by Sam to go with him to other places. We've talked with Eric and Roger Rundberg in Gothenburg. They've got a very good relationship. It'd be interesting to see the day that Roger ends up coaching somewhere else if he takes Eric with him. Do you think that that's something that's going to happen in the future, where you're a team, the filter between a head coach and an analyst? That filter has to be confidence and understand each other. Do you think that that's something that can happen in the future, that the head coach brings with him his analyst?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be more like that than bringing your own assistant coach or coaches, or bring your own goalie coach or video coach or analyst. I think it's going to trend more towards that for sure.
Tomas, what do you say about that? You didn't have obviously one with you, but have you ever been to a place and, hey, I'm coming, but I want to bring my assistant coach with me, or I want to bring my goalie coach with me, or without him, I'm not coming? Or have you ever been that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you always try to do parts of that. And I think that's going to be, again, if you can choose your jobs and you can have that mandate to just develop your own team or put together your own team, I think for sure I would do that.
Were you able to do that in the national team? Were you able to go, I really like this guy in that J20 team. He's the head coach there, that I want him or.
That was great. And I think, but again, that's totally different. I mean, we spend like 60 days a year together, and I mean, in the team you work full time, and a lot of people don't like, they only get, like, we pay them when we go on tournaments, and then they go back and they have different jobs on the side. But yeah, I think for sure, I think like building your coaching staff, and I think the video coach and the analyst will be a big part of that, definitely, in the future.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I got one thing on that, because I think it's so important that you try to have a plan for the analyst. I think, like, we have two different examples here. A couple of days ago, when Erik Lignell and Erik Wilderud was up here, they are analysts, but they have two separate roles. Like, Wilderud is working more to the GM, to the management, roster building, but Lignell is like a part of the coaching staff. He's in the locker room, he's doing the video session and stuff like that. So I think it's two different parts about being an analyst. So either you work a little bit more to the GMs and roster building, and maybe you come with some insights from the top floor, or you're like in the room working with the coaches, working with the players. So I think in the best of worlds, you have like the head coach, he brings his analysts that work with the team, and the GM, maybe he has his guy working with him, and he brings him when he's moving and changing clubs. That's for me one thought about it.
Interesting. I just got the thought of when I came to Sweden in 1992, we had a head coach and then they had an assistant coach half time. Now it was lower division, so it's down. But that assistant coach did kind of everything. But now most coaches are head coach, then you got a defenseman coach, and then you've got a forwards coach, and so that split comes with time and resources, obviously money, to do that. Anybody out there? Any thoughts?
I think, oh, sorry.
Sorry. I think, or interestingly, so I don't think it's a question, data, no data. Data, yes. I mean, and it will be more and more and more. I don't think there's a question about that. I work with a lot of coaching staffs, and an issue is always time. And it's in business, you would see toil. It's like Google says, automate this year's job. So inevitably, we can learn a lot from different businesses. How do you guys feel about that? When Josh yesterday with the Bruins said they have 2 engineers in their analytics staff. Engineers, they bring a process to production. So data guy finds something out and the engineer includes it or somehow makes it part of the process. How do you guys feel about that? If maybe your role becomes much more specified, or there's like left and right, 2, 3 things that are just automated, streamlined processes.
Any thoughts?
That's not a question for me. Definitely not. Sorry.
So if I understand the question right, it's if we bring in some like data engineers to our analyst team and they just work with the data, and then we have some guys working like closer to the staff or something. I think that if we have just the data guys and they are working with like raw data and stuff like that, I think one thing that they can help us with is if you just work with the data, it's easier to stay out of emotions. And I think that's one big thing when you work with stats and data and analyze that, the more you can stay out of emotions, the better analyze you will do, I think, because that's my biggest fear when I analyze a game, that if I have too much emotions in the game when I analyze it, I'm going to do a bad analysis. So I think if we can bring some of those people in, I think that's a big winning.
Now, in a sense, that's what the companies want to do also. They want to create products that they can then do the analysis and then deliver it. If it's to a coaching staff or to a betting company or to the TV company, that's kind of what they want to do, or players for that matter, or agents or whoever it may be. They'd like to do that and package things in the way. Tomas, do you believe in this? Do you think this is the right way for a hockey coach to go? Data.
I think it's a good help on the way. I think it's just, I think that's how you see it. Like it's an extra tool in the box. But again, I think you got to be certain what do you want out of it and how do you want to use it, and just don't get caught in it. I think because as you said, time is an issue, and you're working with people and you're working with players, and in the end of the day, it comes down to the actions on the ice, and the actions that the players do will give us better or worse numbers. And I think we can't forget that it's the actions that we try to teach. It's the actions that we try to learn every day.
Would you have a follow-up question, or would you like to ask something else?
Yeah, maybe I wasn't so great, but like maybe just for you guys that, I'm not sure who was here the first day, but like I basically played my half my life and remained in the business, and it's still processes. Like it's very repetitive a lot, but it's a lot of ad hoc. Like we had a bad game, oh, we need to do something, and tomorrow we do everything different, and we change drills and everything else, and there's a cost with that. And the more we streamline that process, so I just like the analogy, like you said, we have maybe 70 games, we have 150 practices. How much output we generate in those 220 events is going to determine the success of our season to what we can control, basically. So how far we optimize this process, the better we do that, the better we are. So who's going to do that? Well, that's typically an engineer. He designs a process. He makes sure we can monitor it. He makes sure that we can make adjustments and we can measure what works better and what doesn't work better. So that's a little bit, to me, that's a little bit where I'm at, like talking to coaches. Okay, how open are you talking about, okay, let's design a process that we can measure, including practices, including everything else. And then we can actually say, okay, this is something, we're onto something here. This is working. This is not working here. We need more time to make an assessment. But basically to come away a little bit, and I say that as a hockey guy myself, to that in the moment feeling, and that I feel the game, where sometimes we take away from ourselves then the option to actually measure what we're doing and be very systematic.
But I think that a lot of the things a lot of the values and a lot of the actions that are important for us is, as you once said, it's hard to measure. Like, so I think that's one of the things that it's going to be hard to measure, like the actions, because it's going to be different from different teams. Different teams want to play different styles.
Sorry, but wouldn't you say so? Head on a swivel or turning your head is gonna make you better breaking out the puck under pressure, I would assume. So we can maybe not measure at this point how many times a D-man turns his head, but we can measure if we have him 150 times in a breakout under pressure situation, what's going to happen next. Yeah. And then maybe we have to go around one corner, but we can still measure.
And I think that could be the future thing for sure, if you come down to that.
Yeah. So no, I mean, you know, it's super interesting to listen to you guys. I just this is really a discussion I have with a lot of coaches. It's like, okay, how much can we like streamline and somewhat automate, which kind of takes away from you a little bit, but it maybe frees more time for you guys for other things. And that's really a process that I think if we speak about analytics, then it's really, to me, it's a lot about engineering the process and make it so that we can measure the whole process on the way.
Yeah. If I add on to that, I mean, systematic is something you mentioned as well. That's what we're trying to do in a lot of things. When we go to the gym, we do it systematically. We do it a certain way for our legs, and we do, squats a certain way, and we do free lifts or different ways. So we're systemizing something that we can find a better solution to make us better. Automation, engineering, that's what we're talking about here. And hockey guys have to find a way to adapt to understand it. Patrik, what's your next step in your career? And I understand that you're with Växjö right now and you love your job and everything else, but where would you like to go in the next step?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't really put much thought into that. I'm very happy where I am and with the influence I have on a team. But sometime and somewhere in the future, I would like to be the top dog of my own team, or go abroad, or do something else. But I'm very happy.
International is interesting for you?
I'm sorry?
International, abroad, going to a different team in a different country, North America or Germany or something? Jeff, what's your future look like? And I understand you're a coach in Linköping, you love Linköping, and you want to win the champ with it. What's your future? What do you aspire to do? Want to be a head coach? You want to do something else?
Be honest.
No, my plan is not to be the head coach for the next couple of years. I haven't thought about that. I really like to be assistant coach, and I think a lot of the times I'm working like closer to the players, to the game, to the hockey things, and in that we have video and analytics and numbers. So I really appreciate working with the things I do right now. But yeah, that's almost everything I think about, because I still learn every day. So,
Adam, you're in the federation. Do you want to be a part of club hockey? Would you like to go international? Would you like to go? Where do you see you going?
No, I think I'm pretty happy where I'm at now. I think I work best as in a support role, and I think the places where I'm at now, that's what's happening. But I would just like to stick around and get a medal. That'll be lovely.
Okay, for the women's national team.
Right.
silver medal or gold medal.
gold.
But would you accept the bronze? Fair enough. Tomas, I understand you got a new contract. You're in H371. I understand that. Are you the first NHL coach from Sweden? Are you where are you? What do you?
Just happy if I can keep my job in Hove for 2 years. Because that's
this question is a terrible question because no one will answer.
There's been an issue with that before, so we'll see. So no, I'm happy where I am now. So we'll ask me again in 2 years.
It was a stupid question of me to answer. I could have answered for all of you guys. So you know, I hope to. Lastly, connecting with people. That's hockey. Coaches, that's their job. Connect with people. Get them to understand you. You're a listening coach. You're a screaming coach. You're a mix of this. You're a mix of that. You're a mix of this. Where's our future coaches going to be? When I say future, the next couple of years. Is it data? Is it listening? Is it challenging? What do you have to do, Tomas, to be a good coach? When you're connecting with people, and don't worry about systems or don't worry about anything else. What do you have to do so your players feel like they want to be playing for you?
I think the key is to try to involve them in the process, involve them in the game, how we practice, how we play, like get them. Again, I think you can do a lot by just pushing people, but I think if you want to reach the ceiling of the players, I think they gotta do it because they want it themselves, not only because I'm telling them.
Patrik, you're on a championship team years in a row. Where was there a question?
Yes, I have a question on that because I exchanged with Jan yesterday from Liberec as well. We had this about individual development stuff and how to integrate players. And I wanted to offer that I share the principle. I spoke to the football coaches who have their principle is high challenge, high support. And I'm happy to share their presentation, which they presented later on in the room, because I think it's exactly that. And we had a discussion this morning as well, no, Jeff, about how you support the players and how you integrate them in the process on how they develop. They want to be developed themselves, especially the young ones. And yeah, you need to catch them with that and how you can do that. I think they have a good principle. Happy to share.
Thank you. You've seen two coaches. Championship coaches. Tell me a couple of things that they're really good at. Why are they successful?
First of all, they're really smart, humble people that treat everyone with respect and try to explain as well as can be what we're trying to do and get everyone on board. We're really particular about finding team-oriented players, character players. So it's easier to work with them towards a common goal, because everyone is an individual athlete and we're all individuals, but we're trying to achieve a common goal. And if we have smart communicators to explain what we're trying to achieve and how we're going to do it and why we're doing things, then it's going to help a lot. And both Sam and Jürgen is really good at that.
Jeff, head coaches often are the ones that get to speak to the team, but the players often discuss small details with the assistant coaches, trying to figure things out and stuff like that. How do you work when you want to connect with a player?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like you have to do it naturally, how you are. Like maybe I'm not the guy who go and sits down and drink coffee with a guy for 4 hours and talk about everything else than hockey. For me, it's like an ongoing process. But for me, it's easier to start with the hockey stuff, and then I build it from there because that's how I am, and I think that's the most important thing. Like you have to find out who you are and how you connect with the people in the best way, and then you have to have a plan for how you handle those kind of situations.
So you're authentic. You are who you are.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing when you build those individuals relationships.
Adam, you meet players on a quarterly basis or monthly or bi-monthly basis. How do you create relationships? What's important?
Well, I think you have to, from my perspective, you have to create an interest in what you're doing and present the tools you use in a good way. And hopefully, if a fire ignites and they enjoy looking at the data, they enjoy looking at the video, it's great to create just interest, I think. And that'll come naturally later on. If they start to get interested, they'll start to ask questions, and then you can build a dialogue from there.
Any questions? I think, all right, I think we're out of time. Patrik, thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. Thank you for being open. I wish you guys would share a little bit more. I think that would help Swedish hockey and the business of data, but I can't force you to do it. So I'll just ask nicely to speak with each other. Eric and Eric, they've already had a bunch of conversations and shared secrets. I probably not, but okay. This is the last panel. We have 2 more points in the program, but Patrik, I'll leave the word to you, gentlemen. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thanks.